Go. Good morning, welcome to warm up. Today we're going to solve an inequality with absolute value, and then we're also going to state transformations and attributes of this absolute value equation right here. So we've got an inequality and an equation to prepare you for your test. So the first thing that we want to do with this question right here is you want to try to get the absolute value by itself. So when we do that, we want to make sure that we subtract the 2 first, because usually we're used to seeing the 2 behind the absolute value, but I pulled it in front just to make sure that you were paying attention to the equation, or to the inequality. So I'm going to subtract 2 on both sides and get -5. Absolute value of 10 minus 2n is less than or equal to -30. From there, we need to divide by a -5. When I divide by a negative number, or multiply by a negative number, the sign right here, the inequality sign, will change. So now that it's simplified, I know that this is going to be an or statement. Okay, should be closed circles, and they should be going away from each other like that. We just need to figure out what those numbers are. So we need to create the negative case, or the negative side of it, which is 10 minus 2n is less than or equal to -6, and the positive side, which is 10 minus 2n greater than or equal to 6. We need to solve by subtracting 10 on both sides and dividing by -2. Again, signs are going to switch once more. So subtract 10, that gets me -2n is less than or equal to -16. Divide by -2, switches the sign. And that's going to get me n is greater than or equal to 8. Here, same thing, -10, -10. -2n is greater than or equal to -4. I'm going to divide by -2. It cancels here, switches the sign, n is less than or equal to 2. So there's our inequalities. We have our graph that we're looking at. They should be solid, but they should be closed circles because of the less than or equal to sign, greater than equal to sign. Our 2 numbers are 2 and 8. So we're going to look at it at 2, we're less than, so less than goes to the left. 8, we're greater than, we go to the right. Okay, so that's the graph. We need the interval notation. So if we're starting on the left side, we're touching an arrow. We're going to go from -infinity all the way up to 2 with a bracket. The infinity gets a parenthesis. You have a gap right here, so you put the or symbol. Then we go to 8 with a bracket. And we go all the way out to infinity. This is interval notation. Same thing can be done with set builder notation. The solution set of n such that n is less than or equal to 2, the word or, and n is greater than or equal to 8. Close out your braces. That takes care of this question right here. We go to question number 2. We want to state all the transformations. So we're dealing with the A, B, C, and D values to fill in this part right here. So we know that the A value is -1/2. That means it's a reflection over the x-axis. So it's going to flip. And then the 1/2 means it's going to compress like this. So it's going to stretch out that way a little bit. So we're going to do a vertical compression by a factor of 1/2. So I'm just going to write by 1/2. But it's by a factor of 1/2. The B value, we see a 3 here, but inside the absolute value we switch everything up. So really it's 3 over 1. So we flip it, it gives me 1/3. So with 1/3, it's positive 1/3. So there is no reflection over the y-axis. And you're going to say that it's a horizontal compression by 1/3. The C value is a transformation. People want to go ahead and say it's -12, but it doesn't work that way because we have a B value. So on the side, I'm going to show you a trick that works every single time. You take 3x plus 12, you equal it to 0, and you solve it. So we've got 3x is equal to -12. and x is equal to negative 4. That means we're moving left 4 units. So we're going to say horizontal shift, left 4 units. And we look at the 5 right here is the d value. So we have 5, that's going to be a vertical shift up 5 units. Once we have all that, we're going to go ahead and plug it into our calculator. And I'm going to show you guys how to find the attributes given the calculator that we have right here. I've already got the function up. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in all the information and get my vertex, x-intercepts, y-intercept, just so that we know what we're doing. This looks like a mountaintop, so we're looking for the maximum right here. So you're going to say menu 6, the number 3 for maximum. I usually just go to the left side, hit enter, go to the right side so it hits the maximum value, negative 4, 5. That's the vertex. To do the x-intercepts, I'm going to do it twice. Menu 6, 1. I start in the middle and I work this way. I've got 1 point there, and I go back the other way. I've got my second point there. If you want those points to stay on your inspire, you have to do this twice. So there's your first point, negative 7.33 comma 0. And the other point right here is menu 6, 1. Go to the other side. And I have negative 0.667 comma 0. And then I want to find the y-intercept, which is right there. It's hard to tell if it goes straight through 1, but let's make sure that it does. So menu 5, 1, 0, enter. And we have 0, negative 1. So that's the attributes that we're looking for. Let's go ahead and fill in everything else. Before we move over to the board, we see that the range, it's up here. So we start down here, we go all the way up to 5 and back down again. So that's going to deal with our range. This is our axis of symmetry, and then everything else is already listed on this graph with your x-intercepts and your y-intercept. Domain is the easiest question I can ask you. An interval notation is going to go from negative infinity to positive infinity because it goes forever left and forever right. The range, it starts at negative infinity and goes all the way up to 5. Hard bracket. The vertex we already found is negative 4, 5. The axis of symmetry comes directly from the vertex. It's also your c value, which is what we solved for over here. So x equals negative 4. Your x-intercepts, we found them. I've got negative 7.33 comma 0. And then I have negative 0.667 comma 0. And then the y-intercept, I've got 0, negative 1. That takes care of solving an inequality with absolute value, and it takes care of transformations and attributes for an absolute value equation, 2 variables.